Hello and welcome, my friends. In 1959, a group was formed for a skiing expedition across the northern Ural Mountains in the Sverdlovsk Oblast in the Soviet Union. Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led the group, gathering 9 other people for the journey, most of whom were colleagues, students, and peers at the university. The group, which consisted of 8 men and 2 women, were all experienced Grade 2 skiers with prior experience, and they were expected to receive a Grade 3 certification upon their return. At that time, this was the highest certification available in the Soviet Union, requiring candidates to cover 300 kilometers, 190 miles. The goal of the expedition was to reach Otorten, a mountain located 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, north of the incident site. This route was estimated in February as a Category 3, the most difficult. The group arrived by train in Ivdel, a city in the central northern Sverdlovsk Oblast, early on January 25, 1959. They then took a truck to Vizhay, an inhabited settlement to the north. While staying overnight in Vizhay, the skiers purchased some food and 8 loaves of bread to maintain their energy levels for the challenging climbs they would face. On January 27th, they began their journey toward Otorten from Vizhay. On January 28th, Yuri Yudin, one of the group members, had to turn back due to suffering from various illnesses, including rheumatism and a congenital heart defect, and knee and joint pain that made him unable to continue the climb. The remaining 9 members of the group continued on. The group's path up to the day before the incident could be traced through diaries and cameras found near their last campsite. On January 31st, the group reached the edge of the highlands and began preparing for the ascent. In a wooded valley, they stored surplus food and equipment that would be used for the return trip. The following day, February 1st, the hikers started moving through the pass. It appears they had planned to cross the pass and camp the next night on the other side, but due to poor weather, snowstorms, and low visibility, they lost their direction and veered westward, ascending toward the peak of Kolit-Syakhl, known as Dead Mountain. Realizing their mistake, the group decided to stop and set up camp on the mountain slope rather than moving 1.5 kilometers, 0.93 miles, down to the wooded area, which would have provided some shelter. Yuri Yudin believed that Dyatlov, the group leader, did not want to lose the altitude they had gained, and thus decided to camp on the slope. Before leaving, Dyatlov had agreed to send a telegram to his sports club as soon as the group returned to Vizhay. This was expected to happen by February 12th, but Dyatlov had told Yudin that they might take longer. When February 12th came and went with no messages, there was no immediate reaction, as delays of a few days were common in such expeditions. It was only when relatives of the travelers demanded a rescue operation on February 20th that concern arose. The Institute's director sent the first rescue groups, consisting of volunteer students and teachers. They were later joined by the Soviet Army and police forces, who used planes and helicopters in the rescue mission. On February 26th, searchers discovered the group's abandoned tent, which was heavily damaged on Dead Mountain. Mikhail Sherevin, the student who found the tent, said, "The tent was half torn and covered in snow. It was empty, with all the group's belongings and shoes left behind." Investigators said the tent had been cut open from the inside. About 8 or 9 sets of footprints, some in socks, 1 shoe, or barefoot, were found leading down to the edge of the nearby forest on the opposite side of the pass, approximately 1.5 kilometers, 0.93 miles northeast. At the forest edge, under a large pine tree, searchers found the remains of a small fire along with the bodies of 2 group members, Krivonischenko and Doroshenko, who were dressed only in their underwear. They also discovered broken tree branches from a height of 5 meters, indicating that one of the skiers might have climbed up for something. Between the pine tree and the camp, searchers found 3 more bodies: Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin, who appeared to have died in positions suggesting they were trying to return to the tent. They were found at separate distances of 300, 480, and 630 meters from the tree. The search for the remaining four took over 2 months. Finally, on May 4th, they were found under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters further into the forest from the pine tree. These four were better dressed than the others, and there were signs that those who had died first had given their clothes to the others. Zolotaryov was wearing a faux fur coat, while Dubinina's feet were wrapped in a piece of Krivonischenko's wool pants. An investigation began immediately after the discovery of the first 5 bodies. The medical examination found no injuries that led to their deaths, concluding that they had all died from hypothermia. Slobodin had a small crack in his skull, but it was not considered a fatal injury. The examination of the 4 bodies found in May altered the theory about the incident. 3 of them had fatal injuries. Thibaut Brignol sustained major skull damage, and both Dubinina and Zolotaryov had severe chest fractures. Dr. Boris Vozrozdeny stated that the force needed to cause such damage would have been extremely high, comparable to a car crash. Notably, the bodies did not have external injuries linked to bone fractures, as if they had been subjected to a high level of pressure. However, Dubinina had severe external injuries, as she was missing her tongue, eyes, part of her lips, and some facial tissue, with abnormal whitening of her skin. Dubinina was allegedly found lying face down in a small stream running under the snow, and her injuries were consistent with decomposition in a wet environment, making it unlikely they were related to her death. The investigation concluded that an unknown force caused the deaths. Various theories have been proposed to explain the mysterious fatalities, including animal attacks, hypothermia, avalanches, infrasound-induced panic, military involvement, and others. The area is currently accessible, though it was closed to expeditions and hikers for 3 years after the incident. The deaths of the 9 hikers remain a question that continues to puzzle historians and researchers to this day. Why and how did the 9 hikers die? Questions that still lack a complete and final answer to this day. Share your thoughts in the comments.